All right, in this section, section 1.5, we're going to be solving quadratic equations. And quadratic equations is anything that can be written in this form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Of course, a, b, and c are just holding spots where you would have numbers. The main thing when you look at an equation to let you know that it's a quadratic is that your largest exponent of your variable would need to be a second power. So you have to have this term or you don't have a quadratic. You know, you could be missing this term, you could just have this plus a number, or you even could be missing the constant and just have these two terms, but you do have to have the x squared in order for it to be quadratic. All right, so we're going to look at all these different ways that you can solve a quadratic. And this next slide isn't something that you have to have in your notes, but this is just a list of the different ways that you can go about solving a quadratic equation. And you have done all four of these before. First one being factoring, square root property, completing the square, and quadratic formula. So first of all, we're going to look at factoring, and you have been taught all the different techniques of factoring. So like I said, basically this will just be a review for you. Okay, so when you're asked to solve by factoring, first of all, you need to have your equation in that form that you saw just a minute ago, which means it does need to be in descending order, largest exponent down to the constant, and it also needs to be set equal to 0. So in order to get this example in that form, you would need to add the 3. Okay, once you get it in that form, you do need to check to see if there's a greatest common factor with these terms, which this particular example doesn't have a greatest common factor. When you have a trinomial, the factoring process is where you factor it into the two binomials. Now, my first term being 4x squared, I can multiply 4x times 1x or 2x times 2x. So you have a choice there. I would definitely try the 2x times 2x first. So that'll be your first term in each of those binomials. All right, then you go to your last term, which is 3. The only way you can multiply and get 3 is 3 times 1. But you do need to decide which binomial you need to put the 3 in and which one you need to put the 1 in. And actually on this one, it may not matter considering that these two are the same. So let's just try this. Like I said, I refer to this a lot of time as just trial and error. So what we got to do is make sure that this set of numbers will give me my middle term. So here's what I always explain to students to make sure that you get your middle term. I'm not even going to worry about my signs just yet. So if I were to multiply these two together, I get a 2x. If I multiply these two together, I get a 6x. But through adding or subtracting, making something positive, making something negative, like there's no way to take a 2 and a 6 and get a negative 13. So this is not the right combination. I mean, even if I switched this and I were to put my 1 here and to put my 3 here, that's still not going to work. I mean, obviously it's going to give me the same thing because these two happen to be, but I'm just refreshing your memory on your process. You've got to try something. If it doesn't work, then you just have to try something else. All right, so this doesn't work for us. All right, so let me just scratch this out. All right, so what we've got to do is maybe go back, instead of 2x times 2x, try 4 times 1. All right, so let me start another set of parentheses here. All right, so I'm going to try 4x times 1x. Now, you still have the 3 and the 1. I'm going to go ahead and put them in the right spot this time since I've kind of refreshed you on what you need to do. You're actually going to need the 3 here and the 1 here. Now, another thing is, remember, if this last one right here is positive, that means you have to have like signs here, so either both pluses or both minuses. But in order to get negative 13, that's going to require both minuses. All right, so again, just another quick check of what I had showed you. So if I multiply these two together, now that I've got my sign right here, that's a negative 3, that's going to give me a negative 12x. And if I multiply these two together, I get a negative 1x. And then if I combine those terms together, that would give me this negative 13x that I need for my middle term. Okay, so like I said, I try to give you a quick little refresher there. So once you get it factored into the two binomials, then your last step's pretty simple. You just need to solve each one of these. Of course, you said each one of them equal to 0, and solve for x. So I have an answer of 1/4 and 3. Now, since these are quadratics, one thing that you need to remember is that you will have two answers. The fact that your largest exponent is a 2, that's what tells you, like I said, that you're dealing with two answers. Now, sometimes it works out where these two answers come out to be the same, like, you know, x equal 5 and x equal 5. So, like, if you're checking an answer in the back of the book, you're only going to see one answer in that case, but you'd still produce two answers. Sometimes they just repeat themselves. Okay, here's another one for factoring. Now, this one's going to have a little bit more work to it as far as being able to get it in the correct form. First of all, you do need to take the 2x plus 1 squared and you need to multiply that out. Now, if you need to come over to the side, you know, and write it down twice, I mean, that's what, of course, being squared means, is that you have two of those. So you will end up fulling this out. So I'd have 4x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 1, okay? Now, it doesn't matter which side you get the 0 on, but in this case, the simpler would be on the left-hand side. So to make that happen, you are going to have to subtract the 10x and add the 1. So in combining my like terms, I have 4x squared. Of course, 2x plus 2x is 4. 4 minus 10 would give me a negative 6x plus 2. Now, I mentioned a while ago that if you do have a common factor, that you do need to factor it out. In this case, I have a 2 that's in common. So if I factor that from each term, I would have 2x squared minus 3x plus 1 left. Okay, then since I've got the trinomial, again, you do the two sets of parentheses. Now, my first term is 2x squared. I don't have a choice but to go with 2x times x, so I can go ahead and write that in. And I don't have a choice with 1 but to go with 1 times 1. And of course, since they're both 1s, you can obviously go ahead and put those in. Now, this one actually has the same situation with the signs. Again, the fact that this is positive, that does tell you down here the signs at least have to be the same. But in order to get negative 3, then you do have to make them both minuses. So then you set each of those factors equal to 0 and solve each one of those for x. So I have an answer of x equals 0 and x equal 1/2. Now, when it came to this step, of course, I did ignore the 2. That was the common factor, but I mean, it doesn't make any sense to say 2 equals 0. Now, if you had also factored out an x, or whatever the variable happens to be, and you say had 2x out front, then you would get an answer from that as well. But as long as it's just a number, then you just ignore it.